Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first matter of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm not sure we have a flag.
Just want to do that wall.
Let's pretend that we have a flag. So I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you very much. Our first item on the agenda tonight is the resident forum. Are there any residents here that would like to bring something in front of the town council? Please limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we'll be glad to hear what you're concerned about.
Stand up in front of me?
Sure,
Okay.
as you please.
I'm with my wife, Julie Savoy Kennedy.
I have a couple of handouts. I'm Steve
Savoy.
We reside at 138 and 142 Fairway Drive, right across from Meridian Country Club.
So,
preliminary, proactively present this idea.
So I met with Steve and Julie last week. I met with them back in September and then again last week. They are the owners of both of these homes. It is their intent to try and I won't steal your thunder, but it's their intent to come before the land use committee, land use committee, and have them review the request to modify the plat, which moves the property line to create one larger lot, one smaller lot. And the idea was to then build a pool and a pool house. And they are going to understand that has to be done through the city of Indianapolis and will need to be approved by the town council. They are trying to expeditiously get this done because, as you know, pool digging season is upon us. So that's why so much come tonight. It gives at least a chance to start. If by chance they don't meet too much back swell from the land use committee, we may, to help them expedite this, call a special meeting at some point before we meet again in May. So that being said, fire away.
Great, this is my thunder at all. But great recap. So I just wanted to say, describe why we're here. Just a quick background, kind of some of the due diligence we've done. So in general, we wanted to look for our children. We got married at the beginning of the year. Last fall, as Walter alluded to, we met with Walter proactively. Even before conversations about potentially buying 138 Fairway, I ended up purchasing that property after meeting with Walter. And there's a couple of good takeaways that Walter was extremely helpful. We're talking about the hypothetical situation. Julie and I were looking for the family, looking at houses all over the place. They're really, a Dale. And one day, taking a walk. And Mr. Roper's house next door, there's the general manager of the country club. The house has been for sale for a while. It had its own kind of challenges. I think most would say it's kind of needs a little refresh. So we kind of talked amongst ourselves and realized, well, maybe an answer's literally right around the corner from us. So talking with Walter, talk about a hypothetical situation if we potentially bought the adjacent property. Would the town be hypothetically endorse the idea of us building a pool, but really more so shifting the share and adjoining lot between the two properties, put the pool where we think would best serve our family. Our overall intent is to do this project to amplify the current character of Meridian Hills, to fit in with the character, to pay respect to its unique location being across from the country club on Fairway Drive. So after Walter's feedback, one of the key takeaways, he advised, well, Steve, you should probably reach out to downtown. So I started that conversation before acquiring the property, and then talking with my senior planner, Michael Wayne, the planner there with the NB. During that course of conversation, sharing the same information, kind of transparently with Walter. He, without saying officially, said, yeah, I think the way you laid it out, 12-foot offset from one three fairway, understanding the front and rear side setbacks and whatnot, seems like you're doing something logical that hypothetically would be endorsed by the city. And, with Walter's guidance, there's needed that is necessary kind of check box kind of in the process. We entered negotiations with 138, ended up acquiring it. And then, as an architect, started to Craig, it looks like you're kind of previewing ahead. There's a kind of some concept. No, that's good. That's good. Some concept images, just kind of to, Julie and I kind of understand what it could look like, and really seeing the amount of opportunity there on Fairway Street. We all understand how Spring Hill Fairway kind of used a little bit with some utility tree trimming over the years. So we want to do our part to really kind of spruce up that area of Meridian Hills. So with that, after talking with Mr. Wayne, purchasing the property, we have entered some due diligence steps, understanding that there is a utility easement on the shared property line between the two properties. So I took it upon myself to reach out to all the utility companies that are applicable, AES, Citizen, Xfinity, Comcast, AT&T, got letter of approval to formally allow us to vacate that utility easement. It was kind of be our first step to attempt to see if it is possible to move the property. Coinciding with all that, we're kind of preparing building permit level drawings as we speak, and the timing, as Walter said, is right now. We're trying to expeditiously take advantage of the weather and fully understand and are aware that not only the city's downtown's approval as well as the council as well. So we're just proactively reaching out to kind of give you a preview. I think Walter mentioned the other day that maybe the Land Use Committee might meet this Thursday.
Not gonna make it, but we're gonna be here very soon.
Okay, very soon. And our intent would be to show up at that meeting and talk through in greater detail with anyone that would like to, and have a lot more information that I could share. I just saw it a little pamphlet, a preview of kind of what we're thinking, some visuals.
So to add to Stephen's dialogue about why we did this, it wasn't that we needed two houses to get married and provide our families. It was that after a long time, like we were gonna move to guys and just buy one big house. And first of all, we decided, I've lived in Meridian Hills my entire adult life. I've lived within 1 square mile of Public Price my entire adult life. And I couldn't, moving to guys just didn't make sense to me. And also, we didn't want to put our kids into the same house together. So this is a modern Brady Bunch approach to giving his family their space, a shared environment with a full house and pool, we can all grow together, and then my kids also have the same.
Thank you. I don't know that now's the time. If anybody has any questions, they're certainly welcome to ask. I think the next step will be with the Land Use Committee, and then again, I believe they're in the R2 area, so the setback is 12 feet, and the side yard setback is 12 feet, and that's this. The question you're going to get into is the rear yard, where their variance most likely with their property is here. Yeah. And the 138 is a very unusual property. It's almost like a peninsula, because you have Meridian Hills Boulevard on the north side of it that curves around, Fairview that comes on the south side of it. And so you really have two very long front yards, and I don't think you have any backyard. You have one side yard is what you have there. So we can talk about that down the road. They wanted to come and speak tonight, and that is their 5 minutes, and we appreciate you coming. Thanks.
Just real quick, the second, it says second floor addition.
Right.
How do you think it's going to
Maintain it. Okay. Yeah, I think we're pretty fluid right now with the design. That's we're here to kind of react.
Yeah, you're trying to stick out the house. Yeah, the overhang. It's anything that's in. I mean, it looks like
And he's talking to his neighbors.
there's.
He to bring that up.
That back there.
Right.
Yeah, very accommodating neighbors, lifelong friends.
Not lifelong, but
Well.
we never,
property.
well, so we shared it with her, these plants, in fact, we planted in the fall, really at her request, a pretty extensive line of, no, they're actually, spruce. Yeah,
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Are there any other residents that have something to bring before the council? Emily Nature. Nice. Good.
I wanted to ask a question about. We live just down the street from it. There's been one of the other. There's another. Crazy reference. And so I haven't had a chance to read through, this ordinance, but just question for the council. If we could, talk about what is kind of the plan there with things.
So I can,
And
no, you're doing great. This has come up a time or two, or three, and both from residents that are concerned and from, we had an owner that came and indicated he felt he had every right to continue to operate what he was operating over on Holiday Drive East. And we had some neighbors that weren't happy about that. So these things take a little bit of time to understand, and the town has asked our attorneys at Denton's to draft a proposal on what an ordinance might look like. And as you're probably aware, or not, there are a lot of issues, whether it's city issues, state issues. I don't know that the town has the infrastructure to handle all of the different obligations that I think there are. When we get into registering and inspecting and things like that, I don't really have anybody on the town staff right now to do that. But I know that Sloan took his first swing at this, and we're going to read through it and look at it tonight. It would be my hope that we could have some sort of
yeah, I don't know if it's made up for it later, but I just think, and it doesn't look like there's any prohibition against it. I know there's some Indiana code that does, prohibit outright bans of it, but, to me, this doesn't look too much like it's going to actually prohibit the issues that we've seen. It just looks like it's one more step, if you want to go through your checkbox. But, the town operating completely out of the rental only, lived there, never lived there, under this ownership. So, just curious, maybe if you could.
So maybe talk to Sloan about it. I know there are other rental properties in town, and they're not short-term. I mean, there are some other short-term,
Yeah.
but there are other rental properties in town that.
So is the goal of this for the council to prohibit any of those, or just to regulate them?
I think it would be the short-term as opposed to the longer-term.
There's a difference between a owner occupied and non-owner. But for some, for example, if somebody's trying to on vacation or whatever, is there any difference between that and somebody bought a house and then it's just putting it out?
I think
Is
there
that
should
all?
be. I think yes.
You just generally, and I don't want to have it outside the meeting, but Indiana code does not permit a company to completely restrict and prohibit short-term rentals. So we've drafted this preliminary ordinance in a way that is consistent with Indiana code and
But are there some exceptions to that, or so even if the town operates one as like a HOA, instead of not fully as a municipality?
generally under the town's draft ordinance, the town can issue violations, like for nuisances, and certain framework related to being able to revoke a permit that is required to have to follow under Indiana code.
So how would this be implemented in the future? You know, so for example, we've had houses that have problems already, you know, so if they haven't started, they haven't been cited any violations of when effective, so we're gonna let them have 3 more violations before we say.
The city of Indianapolis has a similar ordinance. We've spoken with them, and
They don't enforce it.
they have not done good effort in trying to enforce it. So that's why the town needs to enact this ordinance, so that it's a little closer to home, and the town can actually take action against it, but Indiana code doesn't limit what the town can do.
Is there precedent on geographic proximity to schools that can be leveraged?
I don't believe so.
There is
Off the
no
top of my head, but I could look into that.
I
Feel
think
free
that
to-
would be worth looking into because obviously I think it's a broader town issue, but at a minimum, when you go to pick up your kids from school and there's, I believe they were federal agents for the drug raid, I mean, that's a
I mean,
big
it's
deal.
across the street.
Yeah.
Like, where the playground is.
So I don't think that.
Three more.
That's part of our conversation. Like, right, the frustrating part is you can't just do whatever. Do is figure out what are the levers we can pull.
Well, but contrary to that, right, you could and let them challenge it and then
I mean,
just
there are
hold at the end.
things- Have we gotten with a legal opinion? Has been provided by the legal opinion?
That's something we're working with the draft ordinance and discussing what Indiana code allows the town to do along with what the city of Indianapolis has in terms of permitting.
I mean, that's what I would propose, to get a written, not just draft. Because I do think there are certain areas where you can make it more happen. It's prohibited, but you have to apply for a special exception.
So I appreciate that. I was under the impression originally that Airbnb, VRBO, it had to be your primary residence. Only if you were gone could you then lease it to somebody. In the house on Pennsylvania Street, in 7600 block, and somebody had a wedding in the back section, traffic issues and all kinds of problems. And I believe we wrote a letter. You have to be 100% sure, but to let them know that that was an unacceptable practice. What I'd like to know is that in fact the case that somebody can have a short-term, which when they're renting it by the room, like they were doing at 75. To me, that's no different than a motel.
Commercial.
Yeah, it's commercial, and there isn't a commercial ordinance in our town. Everything is only the residential. So that's what I happen to call the lady that owned that house in Houston and get her on the phone. It's an interesting conversation. She wasn't going to have anything say to me when who I was. I was a neighbor who was interested to know. Children, there had been a drug bust there and federal agents, and she pretty much clammed up with this. And she lives in Houston and runs a pharmacy. From what I was able to, I looked around on the internet, and
Yeah, I mean, again, I just looked at Indiana code quickly today, and there are differences between, you know, owner occupied, owner occupied. That's what I would just look at. Let's make sure that we're doing the most that we can under the law. But I know there are prohibitions, but again, I don't think we're gonna get into a situation where we're gonna like, you know, 3 more violations. Fine, it's what there, but there are a slew of other things that have to straight. So I think, you know, want to hear more about opportunities, but again, like, with those that we get, you know, the whole.
are there any other residents? Seeing none, next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 9th, 2026 meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those? I believe there's one correction I'd like to make, and that is on page 2, item number 6. It talks about, we were gonna determine which survey company, I think should be appraisal company, and again, appraisal of the property, the initial appraisal. David, we talked for a minute, your company provides appraisals, but do you have any idea what the cost of that appraisal is?
Around 25.
Well, our first order of business, if we choose to move that, well, we'll take care of that. That's the change of, that's the modifications that I would suggest be made to the minutes of the February 9, 2026 meeting. Any others? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes of the February 9, 2026 minutes as proposed. Moved, seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great, thanks. And next on the agenda is the clerk treasurer.
Mr. President, members of the council, you have before us the voucher packet which you received last Friday. It's for a total of $28,853.90. We need approval so we can cut checks and pay our bills.
Okay. Are there any questions for our clerk treasurer? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $28,853.90. And moved by Gordon. Any other discussion? Favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign.
Mr. President, we need an acknowledgement of the January financial packet, which you also received last week.
Everybody get a chance to review the January packet? Okay, everybody acknowledge that they had received that. Thank you.
We also need the approval, formal approval of the January 2026 bank reconciliation report that you all have received.
Yes, and so I would entertain a motion to approve the bank reconciliation of January 31st, 2026, showing the total amount in the funds of $860,253.10. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. King. Second. Toby, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Okay. Next on our agenda, excuse me.
No problem. The next three are for information purposes. The annual financial report was filed with the DLGF at the end of February on time. Secondly, the State Board of Accounts audit for the period of 2022-2024 is complete. We went through our review verbally, orally with the State Board of Accounts. We passed with flying colors. Let me recognize Jim Higgins on both reports for getting those done in great shape. We are in compliance on all fronts. And then finally, the local income tax changes from the 2025 SEA1 bill. They've given us another additional year, so we won't get hit this year, but we will get hit next year, and I doubt there'll be any other changes. Open for questions. That concludes our report. And once again, let me recognize Jim Higgins.
Yeah.
I would tell you that the State Board of Accounts were thorough, and very thorough, and we got everything put together.
I had the good fortune of sitting in on the last 15 minutes going through, and our auditor was extremely complimentary of both Mr. Higgins and Mr. Dillon. So the work that you guys have done, thank you very much. Well appreciated, and there were no requests or any questions back into that. I think that's terrific. Okay, town marshal report.
Sir, I only had one thing to add to Mike's report that you gentlemen have already received. The communications agency is updating the computer-aided dispatching system. At some point in time in the future, I don't know precisely when, we are going to need to replace the laptop in the patrol car to a more robust device. The one we have now works just fine for their system. But if they make another upgrade, we're not going to have any choice. We're going to have to upgrade the computer. Mike's still doing research on what that is. You know, it's probably going to be somewhere in the $2,000 to $2,500 range, but that's a guess on my part, gentlemen.
Okay.
And that's all I had to offer, sir.
Any other questions? I'm sure when that time comes, we'll be able to find funds enable us to stay current with the needs that we have. So don't hesitate to let us know when those funds.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what we did last thing we wanted was for the favorite system and all of a sudden.
They usually give us about anywhere from 4 to 6 months heads up.
Okay. All right.
They don't call us and say, hey, next week we're going to do this. No, they don't do that.
I was worried there wasn't a call and an officer was going to get in the vehicle and not be able to communicate. So that sounds like we'll have time.
I share your concern, but no, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay.
Town engineer report, David.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Going through the recap from last year, CCND project 2024-2. We are closing on in that right now for the first out of July. So I'll end that. 2026-1, this is the most recent grant you received. So if you recall, we have been opening February 9th. Higher paying was awarded and executed with there. Turn everything back to the state. It was due by March 1st. I got it in a few days before that. So I was waiting on a PO and notice of receipt from the state. And then I'll schedule a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, get their schedule, and I'll take the council when they start. INET, so this is the Indianapolis Meridian Infrastructure Program. We submitted back February 13th. I know Dylan stopped released to the city and confirmed we've got our applications. I've received that same verification, so we're just waiting until I think April when they said they were going to reviewing and make some recommendations. Once we do receive the check for CCN, excuse me, for INET 2024-2025, the council made the proposal. They just agreed to some amount, approved and gave us payment for part, and then missing, I think, $24,000. So once we get that, then it's to apply to all the streets that we replaced by police report once we have money again. As I mentioned, I'll be scheduling pre-con with Howard for CCMP 2026-1 next month or so. We didn't have any utility cuts or any incidents that I was made aware of. When we did, we thought, thank you, Mr. Stephen, for those comments. I started an initial review of your plans. Now that I'm doing the conceptual and halt, I'm ready to review the ways we get further along. Just for your knowledge, I'm looking for impacts the right of way for the next meeting. Essentially, we did have a review of 25 West 35th Street. They have an underground garage. Great garage. 40 block back. So still very good drainage patterns of that.
Is there any setback item obligations on that?
So what they are not going to be placing in setbacks of trying out structure is essentially what it is. Going between two structures up there, we have getting closer to the edge.
Because their ramp goes down, so they're just building above the ramp.
That is all that I
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Horn? All right, see, yep, thank you. Town attorney, Sloan Schaefer.
other than the items that we already discussed, I wanted to bring up, well, I guess initially I wanted to bring up the eminent domain matter, status of that, just to keep things moving.
Yeah, so I've had several calls from your partner, wanting to know how we're gonna move forward. And I have not necessarily moved that off the dime because I thought the number that they wanted to use for Integra seemed a little bit high. I had a chance to talk with David about it. I'd like to, because my understanding from this, that once we have to get an appraisal to make an offer. Then once we make that offer, they have the time to either accept or counter, and that if they don't, or and they don't approve that, then we start and file the eminent domain action. I'm hesitant to spend, I think it was $3,500, what Mike Lady suggested. If we can get it done for 25, I'd rather have it done that way and save the $1,000. So I've been waiting to hear exactly what his number was, and I would rather spend 2,500 than the town's money as opposed to 35. That started that way. And then I've had several calls from Mr. Buda, and he left me messages as to with how we need to move forward with this and the chronology of how we. So I think once we get the original appraisal from Crossroads, we can then present that offer. And then once that offer is presented, we can see what the response of the property owner is. Isn't that when we would engage Denton's to move that forward?
Correct, yeah. Step one is just getting the appraisal to make the offer, so, right, just wait for that.
Okay.
And I wanted to bring your attention, we already discussed this a little bit, the preliminary short-term rental ordinance. It is consistent with some of the discussion that we had at the last meeting, in terms of trying to make it as restrictive as Indiana code allows. And like I said, providing it to all of you, we're mentioning that any resident that is interested in it has the opportunity to review it and comment on it. And if any resident has any questions about it, I can give you my phone, feel free to send me an email, give me a call, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Can I ask a
Any
quick
further
one?
thoughts on the rates?
The Indiana code does limit what the town can, and that's where the struggle is. The town doesn't have zoning authority for matters like this, like the city of Cornwall does, when they actually enacted zoning, amendments to the zoning code that allows them to restrict short-term rentals more so than Indiana code allows the town to restrict them. So that's why the town doesn't have as much, doesn't really have the authority to pull out prohibit them. They have to comply with what Indiana code allows the governments that you elect the town to do. Simply because the town doesn't have zoning authority, they have to have its own.
Two questions. So I assume that the city of Indianapolis would have that authority.
Yes, the city of
To
Indianapolis,
choose to pass
they can amend their zoning ordinance that actually restrict them.
or to allow, you know, to restrict.
The city of Indianapolis does have a short-term rental permit program and that's short-term rental. The draft that I provided to the council is fairly similar to that. And that's mainly because the city of Indianapolis also wants to understand and wants to make this as restrictive as we can be without getting into the zoning amendment aspect of it, but since the town doesn't have that ability, the short-term rental ordinance is about as much as the town can do. It has to comply with Indiana code. Council President Brian brought it up, but the city of Indianapolis, we actually reached out to them to see what they have done in terms of enforcement, and they had admitted that they just don't have the resources to actually enforce their short-term rental ordinance. which again is why I recommend the town enact a review and make provisions to the draft so that the town can actually take action again. What's allowed in the game.
So if we really want to restrict it more, we have to get some political action from the city.
Correct.
Yeah, and was the $150 fee earlier?
That is the maximum.
That's the
allowed.
maximum. Okay.
Are there, can you speak to the differences between the big
Yeah, I can explain more after the meeting, but off the top of my head, there are less restrictions. If the way that Indiana code lays it out, if there's an owner-occupied short-term rental, the town actually can't take as much action as it could with non-owner-occupied short-term rentals. So there's less restrictions on owner-occupied, and I would say 90% of Indiana, the section of Indiana code that allows short-term rentals relates to non-owner-occupied. Because the general assembly do want to restrict owner-occupied as much as they want to restrict non-owner-occupied.
I haven't been to a meeting since the regular meeting in January, and I don't remember this being discussed. Is there a backstory to the issue that I'm unaware of?
Missed the one meeting.
Yeah, there was a house located at 7575 North Illinois Street was the subject of a federal drug bust where someone was arrested, and information on that was very, very difficult to come by. I think that I asked.
They won't talk to us.
I asked Mike Rousseau,
Since that's basically is in my backyard, and I knew nothing about it.
right, but Mr. Rousseau, who I called, said that the federal agents had almost nothing to say to them. They made an arrest, and that was the end of it. Now, I believe there's been some work being done on that house.
I've seen a dumpster up there.
Yeah,
It had been rented by the
that's what we were under the
as we understand.
I've seen it, yeah. Recently I haven't seen it from.
Has it been rented in general?
Well, I looked today and it's booked right now, so I haven't noticed it out there, so. Not sure if it's that for renovations, but their calendar is open.
I'd be happy to share with you the lady's phone number that I was able to.
Yeah, give it to me.
So I was reviewing this and I see that there's under section 7B for the application for permit, there are some things that you require. Is there consideration for requiring certificates of insurance that show adequate liability insurance that covers perhaps stuff that happens to surrounding properties? Most of these short-term rentals do not carry proper business liability insurance. They carry your typical homeowner's insurance, which does not adequately cover the tenant and damage that the tenant may do to surrounding or neighboring areas. I own several short-term rentals, so I have business insurance.
Are they Airbnbs?
Yes, not around here.
No, but
Yes, they are.
Airbnb actually supplies a liability.
No, they don't. You have to obtain your own business liability insurance,
You can file for an Airbnb liability policy.
specific to short-term rentals. Yes,
Yes.
and it is 4 times the cost of typical homeowners insurance.
Okay.
Which is why it's often a skirted expense. I just noticed you required a lot of stuff. I think that would be helpful.
Just a couple comments for the residents that are here today. 7575 North Illinois is a significant issue and a problem that the council is extremely concerned about. They're sugarcoating it up here, but it is a bad problem. They all know about it. They are all very concerned about it.
That same owner owns a property 2 streets over too. So, I mean, it's not just a single issue.
The one they put a second.
So I just want you to know that there's a lot of work going into this. Since that bust, it was a significant federal bust, neighbor. And then, Counselor, I got a question for you on posting. We need to post this ordinance for review, do we not, for the town?
When the council determines that they want to make the final draft of it, that meeting, then that subsequent meeting, the council can adopt it.
I would just, section 10, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to push to get the ordinance
Okay.
posted, and then we can, that shortens our timeline to get this thing done, and then the council can look into it and make any relative changes, but we got to get it posted before we can.
Can we make changes once it's posted?
Council,
We can make some changes, so.
We should look at, can we do better?
well, my point is post it, get the clock running, and then make changes with doing better if we can.
Otherwise,
If we can.
then we start over anyway.
Just throwing that out there.
What's the ultimate? Let's say this person has more violations. What's the ultimate? Just-
After 3 violations, there would be a hearing. Whatever this committee, the council, or this full council, if that committee decides to let the permit revoked, and then technically you cannot operate that property for rental, and at that point it's up to them.
If the verbiage was right for the rest of that calendar year.
Correct.
So then it would just reset the next year.
Already heard. And right from actively grabs those,
It's a 12-month period.
You can have 3 violations in 12 months.
And then it resets.
So then,
But then every, can we modify the 12 months and say 3 violations in 5?
No.
could we look a little bit deeper into section 10 of that code? Because it does outline a unit may import, enact, or enforce a law or plan that regulates, prohibits, or limits short-term rentals for the following purposes. And some of it, gets a little vague, but some of it's for nuisance issues, noise, protection of welfare. I would encourage us is where can we really push on, maybe outside the bounds a little bit was normal, but if the goal of the council is not to allow these types of units in our neighborhood, let's explore that to the fullest extent.
So what would happen if we, the council, passed something that was more stringent than state law? What happens if we then violate, their lawyers then come back, the state come back and say, you don't have the authority to come back?
It might be a harm party, essentially suing the town, saying that the town's ordinance conflicts with Indiana code.
somehow they violated it. At least that's in our power, I'm not sure it is. They stop the printing or the printer, and then we part of all this against the state law. Liable for the damage.
We'd be putting our liability carrier on notice immediately by purposely doing that, which would be a mistake.
Subsequently, we could report every violation to their liability insurance because they'll get dropped pretty quick. And if you don't have a certificate of insurance that hypothetically could be provided, eventually cost management comes into play on that.
Or they've got one violation in 2026, bang them on the next 2, then file to go after their permit in 2026.
Right, don't they already need a permit for Indianapolis?
Correct.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I
think you're aggressive.
tried my best based on the documents that the city of Indianapolis provided us, their database, and I did not see that they had a permit through the city.
From what I've researched, they don't.
With that, now we start this by sending a letter from the town saying they're operating without a permit, cease.
Can we act on that?
Could we get the city of Indianapolis to send a letter saying that they're operating without a certificate and they need to cease.
I think it makes sense to reach out to the city and probably see if the city's okay with the town sending a letter, identifying that the owner is operating without city permit, or if the city wants to do that.
And I know no one likes to hear this, but like, if the mayor's action committee and other avenues of raising awareness to the city of Indianapolis will be used. 100 complaints, someone in violation of their laws.
Well, Mayor's Action Center is geographically blocked out for any addresses within Meridian Hills. If you try to submit something to the Mayor's Action Center, it redirects you to this governing body. The Request Indie app that they have, if you put in an address that correlates to anywhere in Meridian Hills, and I'm happy to try again, but it says you have to talk to your local government.
As it does for Beach Grove, as it does for
Right.
Lawrence, as
Yes.
it does for
Yeah, it's
Stevens.
not unique to just us. Yeah.
Towns within the city.
Correct.
Right.
See if there was
You're 100%.
Yeah.
distinct service Airbnb, VRBO. I mean, it was pretty well publicized that Airbnb at least is trained to have their maybe back to or be like owner operated, like not just this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, in terms of what the town can do, it would be helpful once the town has an ordinance, being able to go to Airbnb or Airbnb, identify that it's short-term rentals violating the town's ordinance, or even the city's ordinance right now for the town. I think other than that, the town doesn't have any legal authority to prohibit the short-term rental, then Airbnb or Airbnb, they won't do it.
So could we, my opinion would be, couldn't we write a letter at the town, saying that you researched their certificate of
Compliance.
of operating, and if they are, if you cannot find it, they either need to provide you that certificate or ask them to no longer do business without that in our town.
We can do that.
That's the first step.
But then, okay, the first step, and then they get a permit, and then,
Do you think they'll get it?
well, I mean, this doesn't prohibit you to get a permit for really any reason.
No, I understand. What I'm trying to do is show them that somebody's paying attention.
Right.
This lady did not want to have much discussion. I'm trying to look at the
I
logical
understand.
steps of how we could turn the heat up on them a little bit, on that property owner. And it is in an LLC.
Yeah, it's like a farm system,
Yeah.
which has recently changed hands to that new entity.
Can I ask a question? Why are the federal agents so hesitant to share information about who they took, what they took, and why they took with the local police?
We've been trying to figure that out for the 40-plus years I've been in law enforcement. Federal agents tend to, with the only exception being ATF. ATF is user-friendly, but FBI, DEA, most of the alphabet federal agencies do not share with local government that much unless you're part of a task force. If you're working as a part of a federal task force, like, IMPD, state police, whatever, in a joint operation with them, they share information that way. But unless you're functioning in that environment, they don't share much. We didn't even know they were going to hit the place.
Let's say someone is in violation of the city's ordinance. What is the enforcement, assuming that they are going to do? What is the enforcement?
I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but
They just pulled the permit.
it's pulling the permit first off, but in terms of.
Yeah, they don't have it.
You're right, right, so that's the question. Well, you have police
I mean, is it a
there.
fine, is it a, I'm not saying what will they do. I'm
It
saying
is a,
what-
I can't remember the exact level of the criminal offense, but there is a.
It's a criminal.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess,
it's a
Registration and inspection.
Or at least really there. So that's something we could do also. Exactly. You operate. They require that accessible. What code would Airbnb?
In terms of what?
Accessibility, fire code.
You have to be compliant with your homeowner's insurance, your business liability policy. Airbnb provides no corporate structures for how we operate. We comply with our third-party contractor that is a representative of the insurance company that tells us what we need to do. So certain handrails, color coding in certain spots for step-ups, stuff like that.
What I've seen is a municipality, whatever they agree on.
It sounds like, short lived that. I feel like it was sold there.
Right.
Fire department has no jurisdiction of single-family residence. They can't go in and forcibly inspect a single-family residence. So the thing you can do is inspect commercial structures. They look at them as single-family residences.
But when they're renting them out, 4 rooms, with 4 different patrons, which are overnight, and nobody lives there.
I'm not sure that the fire code has been upgraded to include that type of thing, but right now, the local fire department has no jurisdiction.
So at my place, I believe the way it works, the town inspector checks for fires, like this effectively checks all these things.
And
if you want to be short.
Single-family residence versus multifamily residence. If you have multiple families occupying one unit, it is.
Right, but
I
it's
understand.
a single house, and I don't
Sure.
think the fire code has been upgraded. This is kind of a new thing as far as the fire
They
code
do it as a
goes.
structure, not on use.
So, I'm
They're
sorry.
looking at it by the structure itself, not on the use.
Correct. I'm not saying that they haven't discussed maybe upgrading the fire code, but that's something that takes a while.
Do we operate as an actual municipality? I mean, I know we talked about that still, like, we don't actually have zoning delegation,
It depends on the topic.
Because, I mean, there is an exemption for, like, HOAs and neighborhood declaration covenants. Is there a gray area where we can say, no, we're operating not as a municipality? Because in that, then you can just outright prohibit those.
We are incorporated, so
It is a municipality.
But that's what I was going to bring up, right? There's a lot of confusion. I don't know. I help describe, right? The way that the town is, we're an incorporated town. You don't have control over a lot of things. Particular statements, right? But a lot of governmental entities, they want to give out as little, as little. They don't want to give up as little control as they can, right? So. There's a very defined, amount of things that we have when you could say unfortunately or fortunately, when it has come to some other thing. But that's what we're trying to figure out.
You're saying we're at the bottom of the food chain,
I didn't
bottom of
say
the
that.
org chart, in the government universe, bottom of the
Sliced
org
off-
chart.
We sliced off a couple of things that we could control, right? And that's, and those things do help us retain, I'm talking about the character of the town, things like that. They're just not necessarily constructed to give us the power to have as much control as we would like.
But I
right?
almost
So
wonder,
how
could
do-
that work our benefit here? Is there a gray area where we can say, hey, no, we're operating more as an HOA here, which is exempt from these two?
It's a crazy idea to overlay an HOA just over all of another entity.
You can't just get every homeowner in town.
just
That
on
would
this
take-
issue.
that would have to take
You could do that.
Do you have to get every single one, or is it, you know? I'm just saying, like, we should be thinking about these ideas if we don't want this in our neighborhood.
Well, I'm just thinking, alright, so we do have the power as a town to have building codes that are over and above those in Indianapolis, Marion County. We do that. We have the no fence thing.
Well, ordinances.
Yeah, ordinances. We do that with the use of the property. We enhance that. That's a,
Years ago, I think there was a very long drawn out lawsuit in town where there was not going to be any commercial use. And St. Luke's, probably 50 years ago, sued the town. And obviously, St. Luke's won that because there's a church and a school and the Hebrew Academy. So there was a period of time that I remember when people would say you can't have any commercial use in the town. So then you're starting to try and understand what's commercial use. Well, in my opinion, renting 4 bedrooms out of your house is a commercial use. If you don't even live, it's not even your house, it's a rental property that is a motel, for lack of a better word. And so that's why there are only, I believe this is why there are only residential districts, zoning districts, R1, R2, and R3. And really the only difference in those deal with setbacks. And so, is there a way to enforce? Big question here is what we have without being overrun or over trumped over by the city and or the state. The answer is, from my perspective, anyway, I'm talking no, we don't want these in town.
Does an HOA help with that? What does establishing a Meridian Hills HOA do for us in this area?
Well, I'm just saying, so the code prohibits, municipalities from doing this. It doesn't, there's an exemption for an HOA. Like a neighborhood, if a neighborhood is built, an HOA can, explicitly say no short-term rentals.
but to start that, no one's in one right now, so you would have to agree to have your property in the HOA. Usually when this developments are done, it's a requirement when they sell you the lot.
Yeah.
Well,
You'd have-
just hearing this,
people would have to opt in.
it seems like this issue could be, if there are other benefits, but there's a lot of blowback from people for various reasons that wouldn't opt in this far down the road. I mean, I just became aware of this issue, and now all of a sudden I'm a firm, and if it was like a moment in time that we have to get our neighborhoods back under our control, and this is a topic that leads everyone to be nodding their heads about it. I don't know if there's been a discussion about an HOA prior to this, but it certainly seems like this would be something that every neighbor cares about a lot and doesn't know about.
Just quick education, like from a business aspect, can you run a business in this neighborhood? Because they collect a Marion County's innkeeper's tax, where they're supposed to be, which is a separate, it's ultimately establishing commercial.
It's a sales tax too.
Well, right, well, there's sales tax and then an additional 10% Marion County.
So I guess that would be my way to look at it. Could you say these people are operating this and send the revenue department there to say, have they been paying tax on this revenue that they've been receiving for this period?
Do we have that prohibition on commercial use? Because there's also another exemption in that if you did have regulations in place prior to 2018, then there's also some exemptions that you can then modify those.
So here's where it becomes a little bit cloudy in my eyes. If you, with all the work from home after the pandemic, there are a lot more people working from home that don't go in anymore than they used to. And then the question would be, is that a commercial use?
Well,
And
I thought you said commercial use got shot down.
no, they won that because a church and a school was considered a commercial use. That was a
They're
religious,
allowed.
I think they went well from, I think that they cut that, and I don't know. Yeah, I think that became an issue, it was church and schools. Could we pass an ordinance of prohibited commercial use in the town? If it's not there, can we do that? And then I suppose we're gonna get into trying to define what a commercial use is. And, well, it could be, I guess, that is a home rental, a commercial use. If you don't live there, you buy a house and you're gonna rebuild it, tear it down and rebuild another house and sell it, is that a commercial use? The property. Right. Just a rental property.
I just think it's worth us to explore some of these, maybe creative ways, that could maybe have some more teeth in this specific property. Rather than waiting, like implementing something and then we gotta wait for 3 more violations.
I do feel like the fastest way to get anything, and I'm not saying stop this now. Fastest way would be to somehow get Indianapolis to enforce its own current regulation against this particular property.
I think phase one would be real practical to advertise the discussions that are going on, because that is very deterring to individuals that are purchasing properties with this intent. I would never set foot in a municipality where there's a town council that's talking about this. Just terrible idea. That would subside a lot of, hopefully, incoming issues. Dealing with the existing issues, unfortunately, is going to come after the fact, and there's still a lot of stuff to discuss, but I think it's really important that it's publicly known how the council feels about this, because any corporation that is coming in to purchase these types of properties with this intended use, if they don't do their due diligence on that, they're idiots. And they are. And it seems like this person bought the property with that intent, and they have the appropriate LLC, and that, other municipalities across the country, they don't allow businesses to own those. They have to be individual owned to fit that owner occupancy status. Oh, absolutely.
Others are making it difficult.
That's what would you put together a piece that you could write and we could post on our website?
Oh, absolutely.
I would-
haven't done it in a while.
When you get home.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
That, the council had, this has been something that's kind of been going on for a while. At least 6 or 8 months, 9 months.
Well, we should post those.
Yeah, this is a draft, and along with that, a president who has very
Strong.
experience and strong opinions of the best way to run. You could do that, right?
By this time tomorrow morning.
I'm not disagreeing with that suggestion, but how many hits do we get on the website?
How many hits do we get on the website?
Are you insinuating that everyone doesn't know about the town of Meridian?
I'm not
I
insinuating-
mean, I get at least strong lead.
Suggesting.
I never talk to a resident of the town that doesn't. But yeah,
But we can ratchet up a campaign for sure. By putting it on there. We have a database of addresses that we could send out. My impression of that is that
Public awareness of the council's stance goes a long way. If presumably that's the stance.
I don't think it changes it. I recall they didn't buy it in the incentive. I don't disagree with taking this, but they were incentive. I don't think the economics of it. This probably that's going to pop up a lot. That doesn't make it front room, but I don't think they had this intent.
Well, because the next thing, they have a beautiful pool in their backyard. Stop them from on a different website renting out their pool on weekends to.
For birthday party. That's true. That
Right.
really does now that you say that.
I know it
Yeah.
does.
Uh,
Yeah.
Well, I think that this will maybe other towns there.
Yeah, you
Well-
guys are not. I think we love over there.
Right.
We're not renting.
Stretch it like that.
Mitchell, if you could
Yep,
help with that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Emily, I know you are a whirlwind of knowledge. And you're a great asset. That I'm happy. Sloan, maybe you can talk to Emily.
Yeah, I can give my card to anybody who wants it.
Don't extend that offer.
Well, can you recap?
Review it. Let me know any questions you have. Bring it up to any residents that you interact with, let them know what's happening. And send me what feedback that you have, questions, and I can get you detail, yes or no. Is there anything we can do to move this forward tonight? Could introduce it. Can you make changes to it after you introduce it? Make some changes.
Some.
Well, make that, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
Yeah.
what-
Well, if we make more, maybe
I'm thinking of it, it's on
Okay.
30 o'clock
If we
tonight.
find out we can't do anything.
I can see it. More. We'd be at the same spot we'd be if we don't move it.
Bob?
All that sounds good. I really like your idea, Walter, about paying this phone and double check on when there's, they have a permit for the food center. And if not,
Then write a letter and
Cease
say,
and
start
desist.
turning the front row.
Yeah, we're not, just to be clear, I'm talking about moving this as like something that we tangibly can do. All these other things we talked about, we're gonna keep, we wanna keep
I
on the
think
path.
Sloan,
Getting the city to act on these.
you can
That's
see who
supposed to
owns
act
that
way.
on the map side, and you can send in this LLC. You go ahead and put out a check with the city, and if in fact they do not have a valid permit to operate, we as a town prohibit them from continuing to operate until they're fully licensed by the city of Indianapolis, of which we are an incorporated town within that city.
Should we also send it to? They've had from federal drug bust there, the apparatus, they're removing it from your service and whether they will involve it.
They won't do anything.
They won't do anything. No.
That's what I'm saying. I think the most effective way is to find it out, confirm it, out there, and somehow get someone in the city to get that attention to the students. Part of it. You want actual action. That's where.
Then they just hit the tenants of it. Who don't know anything, and just say, I rented this. So what's the council's pleasure? Would you like to introduce the ordinance tonight? Okay, so, this would be the Sloan, the first reading. of ordinance number 2026 dash, be the second one of the year. Okay, so this, I would introduce the first reading of the ordinance in 2026-2, which is the short-term rental ordinance. You guys have all had an opportunity to read the ordinance. I would ask that everybody review this and bring their questions to our next meeting. And I would ask Craig if you could please post this as a proposed ordinance at its first reading. And that any resident that wishes to come and speak on behalf or opposition to this ordinance, and we have, and that at the May meeting, we take this up. In the interim, I'd ask Sloan to go ahead and again look for the permit, and if it isn't there, we ask the city to act to terminate that. So we've now had the first reading. I don't know whether that requires a motion to approve. It's just taking place. Okay. Any other questions regarding this ordinance at this point?
This is advertised on Airbnb or something.
Yes.
Because can anyone go on there and comment about the product?
If you'd like to book it for one night.
Exactly.
Yeah, real. It was like $27.
Maybe we have our next town council meeting.
$27.
Yeah.
You know, after so many bad
Let's go to
reviews,
Rick
you're put on
Tonight.
notice.
I don't know if you can rent it by the room anymore. I haven't seen-
Afterwards, and really turn the thing up.
Make sure they have that
You just
insurance.
walk right behind your house, and there you'll have a council spot. Okay.
I would recommend if you see that it's something happening that is trespassing, all of it.
How do you know if they're trespassing?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that food pantry behind it, so it's very sticky.
That the churches.
Yeah, not St. Luke's.
Check Chris.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of people that walk around and. Well, yeah, the dog walkers I'm okay with, but there's a lot of people that. Yeah, there's a lot of people that visit that pantry and cut corners.
Sloan, anything else tonight? Okay, is there any new business for anyone to bring before the town?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Mr. President, you have before us, we didn't have a chance to put these on the agenda, but we need to address them. A 2026 contract with Hedge Clippers that I'd like to get approved so we can get it signed and move forward. And then secondly, Crossroads Engineering's professional service agreement, I'd like to get approved and move forward.
And did the cost of the lawn care increase with Hedge Clippers?
Did not.
Did not. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026-2027 lawn care and maintenance proposal that has been provided by Hedge Clippers Lawn Maintenance Inc. in the total amount of $12,550. Then move to a second. Second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Then our second is our town engineer to renew their contract for 2026 professional services agreement between Crossroads Engineers and the town. I have always found their work to be really good and on time, so I would have no reason not to suggest that we renew this contract. And it looks like they have provided us a hourly billing rate based on personnel classification. I don't know if that's gone up. Between 3 and 5%. So that would be, I would entertain a motion to approve this as presented? Is there a second? Do we say any further discussion? Seeing that, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's it.
Thank you. Anything else to bring before the council?
Walter, do we need to approve $2,500?
I don't. Yeah. Okay, entertaining motion to adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With the Youngs old house. Youngs old house.
By the way, like for something you may like to hear. I see, like, job, I see some parents that don't provide their kids with some kind of health advice to get rid of their excess energy. And I see kids up at basketball all the time. Anytime I encounter them, they're going to be very polite, they're easy to get along with, and I just want to compliment them.
Fun to be around.
Oh, yeah.
I like the Youngs old house.
You're welcome.
Turn off the cameras.
We're gonna go take the intro.
Walter, any objection? Turn off the camera.
Well, we're not doing it.
Yeah, but we haven't.
Youngest.
Well,
Sounds like this matters.
Well,
yeah.
good luck with your. Yeah, I want to turn this off first. My mind,
I feel like